So we're learning different hand stitches, and most of the stitches are hemming stitches, decorative stitches, and then stitches to join two pieces of fabric together. They are all hand stitches. We have so many of them, but we'll be learning a few of them today. And the stitches we'll be learning are herringbone stitches, catch stitch, blind hem stitch, buttonhole stitch, running stitch, running basting stitch, back stitch, and blanket stitch. So follow me through as I show you the process of making these stitches. So the first we'll be starting with is our running stitch. You go from right to left. So you could join two pieces of fabrics together like this. Let's assume like you're joining two ends of fabric. So you just sew it on whatever allowance you're sewing it on. So this is our running stitch. You start from the back. So I'm using a construction thread so that you could see the stitch, and your needle should be small, a small needle. So you take it inward, then bring it out like this. When you're making this stitch, your thread should be just one. The strand of thread should be one, but I doubled it so that you could see it properly. Then you leave same space, so this distance should be the same distance with this. So the distance of no thread should be the same distance with where the thread covers. Put it in, bring it out on a straight line. On a straight line. So this is our running stitch. The next stitch we'll be learning now is our running baste stitch. So same process with our running stitch from the right to left, but this is bigger. It's a fatter stitch. So you just go big, and then the stitch itself is big. The stitch itself is big. While coming out, you come out very small. Then you come in again with a very big stitch and then small out. So it's different from our running stitch. So you could see it is a big stitch, but this distance is not same as this distance. For the running stitch, the distance here is the same thing as the distance of the thread covered, but this time it is a bigger stitch, small inward, a fatter stitch, small inward. So this is just it. So this is a running baste stitch. The next stitch is our back stitch, and this is my favorite hand stitch when joining two pieces of fabric together because it is very strong as machine stitch. So still from right to left. This is the back of the fabric, so you are coming up outward. You bring your thread. You bring your thread. You could choose to tie the end of the thread, and then you could still choose. So you go back. We took it inward, but this one I will not. Unlike the running stitch one, will continue from the front. We are starting from the back, and then we'll go to the front of it. So the first stitch is at the middle of the needle. So just go like this. I'll repeat the process and you'll understand the back stitch. This stitch is very strong. It's as strong as machine stitch. So I'll come now to this starting point to pick. Then I'll come out here. So this distance should be equal to this distance. So the thread is dividing these two spaces. They should be equal. And come back. So this is our back stitch. This is it. So I'll do it again. Place your thread in this, the beginning of the last sewing, and then out on the same line while the last sewing is at the middle, and then you draw it. So this is our back stitch. The next is our herringbone stitch, and it's almost like a zigzag stitch. It's for embroidery. So you're starting from left to right. And it's not straight, it's a slanted stitch. So you pick like this, and then now the thread is like this. It's not going to be like this, it's going to be on top. So you're crossing the thread. Now this thread now is crossing back here, but not straight, horizontal, diagonally. So you take it in, bring it out while the thread is on top. Then you cross it back now to this side. So you take it in, bring it out, your thread is on top. So this is the herringbone stitch. And when you're making this stitch, try as much as possible to just pick little grain of fabric so that it will not show at the back. But in my own case, it might show at the back because the fabric is very light. Okay, let me try to do it without showing at the back. So let's start from here now. You'll see that the fabric, the thread will not show at the back. So if I was using the same color of thread, you won't even see the stitch. So from this part I said we should notice, you can see that it's not showing. This other part that I even showed, if it was white thread, you won't see it. So this stitch is called herringbone stitch. So we just make sure the thread is on top. We cross here, come here, just pick few grains, make sure this is up, cross it, and then you come back to this side. So this is the herringbone stitch. Now this is the catch stitch, just like the herringbone, but the herringbone is from left to right, the catch stitch is from right to left, and the herringbone we crossed from one point to another. But for the catch stitch, you don't cross, just you start from wherever you're starting, and then you come up still diagonally. So it's like you're trying to form an X. You come out from there, and then you just pick it, but you're not crossing thread this time. Come up. You can see that it's almost like the herringbone, but there's no cross here now. So you could call this your zigzag stitch as well. So this is your catch stitch. All these are hemming stitches. You used to hem fabrics, maybe the hem of your skirt, the hem of your trouser. You can use it to hem, to sew the hem. And look at the back, you can see that it's just faint stitch at the back. So if it was the same color of the thread and the fabric was same color, so you won't see. So if this was the front of the material, you will not see the stitch. And then one thing I should let you know is when you're making your catch stitch, this zigzag or cross mark should be at the back, while this should be the front of your fabric where everybody sees. But for your herringbone, this should be at the front of your fabric because it's a design, it's an embroidery stitch. So you could use it to design your neckline of your dress, you could use it to design your sleeve, the hem of your dress. This is a design sleeve stitch, while this one is just an hemming stitch, so that the hemming lines will not show. So this is our cash stitch. Let me just do it one more time. Down, and then back up. So this is our cash stitch. So the next two should be learning is blind hem stitch. So let's assume this is the hem, you're hemming these two fabrics. Let's assume this is a shirt, the hem of a shirt, or the hem of your trouser or your skirt, and then you're hemming it. The blind hem is you will not see the stitch here, so you fold a part of the hem, you bring it out like this, you place your needle like this, pick a little grain, then pick another grain from this part folded, and pick another grain for this part lying straight, little grains, and then so you pick from here little grain, and then you pick from this other flat part little grain, then just drag your needle, and then you thread. Repeat same process. Pick from these folded parts, just pick little grains, and then you pick from here, because we're joining the two sides together. So this is your blind hem stitch. So it's called blind hem because you will not see the stitch line, so you can see it. So this is the hem and this is the back. So imagine it was same color, you won't even notice. This is blind hem. So it's when it's open, you know that there's a stitch inside. So this is your blind hem stitch. So now the next stitch we'll be practicing is our blanket stitch. Just come from behind like this, come forward, come back to that same position, then take the needle through the thread like this. Repeat the process again. Take the needle through the thread. So this is our blanket stitch. I'm sure many people know this stitch. It's a very common stitch. Take it, then take your needle through it. So this is your blanket stitch. It's a good hemming stitch as well. You can do it as close as possible, it's your choice. So this is our blanket stitch. Just in, forward, then you pick it, and that's it. So this is a blanket stitch. So for our blanket stitch, this next stitch we'll be learning now is our buttonhole stitch, which is the last stitch for today. So you could use this now to make your buttonhole stitch if you don't have a buttonhole machine. So you just place it like this on one side. So it's similar to the blanket stitch, but it is not the blanket stitch. You pick your fabric like this, and then you go across it once and cross it back again. So this is your buttonhole stitch. Do it again. Sorry. Once. Sorry, once, and then a second time. Once and the second time. So it's similar to the blanket stitch, but this is the buttonhole stitch. Once and then bringing it back out. So this is the buttonhole stitch. So I'm sure you enjoyed this tutorial on how to make different hand stitches. Please share this video with your friends, with your soulmates, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel so that you get notified whenever we drop any new tutorials. Bye.